All right, Miles, let's talk Cincinnati Bengals here for a little bit. This is a team with Joe Burrow as their quarterback, will contend every year, it seems like. Like Burrow said, the window of them to win a championship is as long as Burrow is there. And we got some news coming out of Cincinnati that is a great sign that that window that Joe Burrow was talking about is large and will continue to last.
Yeah, Nick, and the team is really, really great right now. But, free agency period is about to open up, and maybe there's a couple of pieces that Bengals fans think that they could add to make the team a little bit better. And so I got to ask in the comments below, who do you want the Bengals to target in free agency? Is there anyone that interests you? Let us know in the comments below. But, Nick, what's the great news about the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah, when you're a team like the Bengals, right, that obviously made it to the Super Bowl last year, made it to the AFC Championship game before falling in a heartbreaker to the Kansas City Chiefs, you're in a position to contend. It's obvious, like we've seen in the last couple of years. So what you need more than anything else is continuity in the organization, because you clearly have a lot of momentum. Things are heading the right direction. You just don't want things to disrupt it. And a lot of times what happens when teams get successful, a lot of talented assistant coaches, they take promotions, they take pay raises, they try and do other things at other programs to raise their profile. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals are having an interesting case because that's not happening with them. This is according to USA Today, Bengals Wire. Offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, and here's the big one, Mice. Quarterbacks coach Dan Pitcher, will return to again help head coach Zach Taylor orchestrate the offense. Pitcher got looks as an offensive coordinator, and the Bengals gave an extension to counter other teams. Callahan interviewed for head coaching gigs in Indianapolis and Arizona before returning for Cincinnati. Obviously, Lou Anarumos, they're still up in the air if he's going to leave, but focusing on the offense, Mize, focusing on the quarterback specifically with Joe Burrow. Dan Pitcher is the only quarterbacks coach Burrow has known in the NFL. We all know how good Burrow has been with the Bengals. It looks like he's going to be right up there with the Mahomeses and the Allens in the AFC for a very long time. And I think this is a massively good sign for the Bengals. The fact they're keeping the continuity, mainly with Pitcher, but keeping Callahan involved in the offense as well, is great. Because when things are going good, you just don't want to disrupt the mojo, the flow, and everything going right in Cincinnati right now. Give me your thoughts on these coaches returning and not taking potential promotions and big deals other places.
Well, it's a pretty big deal because piggybacking off of an article from last month into January, where Zach Taylor made comments saying that he would like to keep the coaching staff together. I think this is a pretty huge one because the entire offensive coaching staff remains unchanged from last season. And the offense was great last year. It was a really strong offense. I think per PFF, this is the 7th overall ranked offense in the NFL. And, that the rankings are kind of iffy at times. So I being top 10 is pretty solid. If you're a team, you got to be really happy about that. And on the back of all of the things that could be happening, who knows whether or not T. Higgins is going to stay or not. But that doesn't affect this team because they're not T. Higgins does not make this team. They have plenty and plenty of offensive talent. You got guys like Irwin stepping up. Obviously, Jamar Chase is huge for this team. And I just think there's so much talent around the ball, Nick, that if you can keep this coaching staff intact, it's going to be the same offense next season as it was this past season. And that is good enough to get you to the AFC Championship consistently. And as we saw 2 years ago, good enough to get you to the Super Bowl.
I think the interesting thing for here, Mize, is that obviously right now the Bengals are facing locking Joe Burrow up to a huge, massive deal. It's going to be just a monster contract. Right now, I'm sure there's some negotiations between the Burrow camp and the Bengals camp to iron out some of the details. One of the things you really don't want to do, Bengals fans, is give him, I don't want to say too much money because he's almost worth it, but if you pay the quarterback so much and it just eats up all your cap space, and guys like Higgins, unfortunately, will have to walk. Maybe some other guys, some key players will have to leave in free agency just because you can't afford them. By going out, making sure you keep Pritchard here. Remember, they offered him an extension. They matched his contract. I think that was a really smart move by the Bengals leadership. It kind of gives Joe Burrow a warm fuzzy that's like, hey, listen, we're here for you. We're supporting you. We're willing to spend money to keep your favorite coach. I'm assuming he has a good relationship with his quarterback's coach. There's no reason to think that he doesn't. Yeah, I mean, you go back-to-back AFC Championship games. He's been really productive. I think he definitely really likes Pritchard. But when you do that, right, I feel like it gives him good vibes in Burrow's head. It makes him think, okay, I don't need $52 million a year because this team's doing everything they can to put me in a, keep me happy, keep me content, keep my favorite coaches in place. I'll take a little bit less. And when you have a quarterback that takes a little bit less, Mize, magical things can happen. Obviously, the Patriots with Tom Brady are a perfect example of this. So I think maybe that's where the Bengals are leaning forward too, right? To keep Burrow happy so they don't have to pay him, $50-$55 million a year.
Yeah, and earlier on in the season, the comment that Jamar Chase had made, whether it's true or not, but he said, Joe knows he needs what kind of contract he needs to put on the table to keep this core unit of offensive players together. Now, I mean, Obviously, Joe Burrow deserves all of the money. He is probably going to get a ton of money, but it seems as if from Chase's comment that there is a thing in the back of his head that he's keeping in mind, hey, it would be really nice to keep this whole team together, this offensive unit together. And, it was $10 million amongst friends. When you're making 50, 40 isn't that bad. So, he doesn't have to reset the market, even though he probably deserves it. But it would be kind of interesting to see if he does take a little bit less than a record-setting market topping deal, Nick, to see if he wants to keep this offensive unit together.